The Sunday family dinner at Mom's house in Pasadena had always been a sacred tradition, the kind of weekly gathering that reinforced hierarchies, celebrated achievements, and subtly reminded everyone of their designated role in the Chen family ecosystem. Tonight's menu featured Mom's signature roast chicken, Dad's homemade wine, and what appeared to be a coordinated ambush regarding my living situation. "Daniel, sweetheart, we need to discuss your housing arrangements," Mom announced as she set down the platter of perfectly golden chicken. Patricia Chen had spent 32 years as a successful real estate agent, and her tone carried the practiced authority of someone accustomed to managing other people's property decisions. I looked up from my plate, immediately recognizing the signs of an orchestrated family intervention. My sister Jennifer sat across from me in her designer dress, her recent engagement ring catching the dining room chandelier's light. At 26, she'd mastered the art of looking simultaneously grateful and entitled, a combination that had produced increasingly expensive expectations since her engagement to Marcus, whose family owned a successful chain of upscale restaurants in Beverly Hills. "What kind of arrangements?" I asked carefully, though I suspected I already knew. "Well," Dad interjected, refilling his wine glass with theatrical precision, "your sister's wedding is coming up fast and the costs are substantial." Jennifer's eyes lit up with the particular gleam that had preceded every childhood manipulation she'd ever orchestrated. "Danny, you've been so supportive of my engagement. Marcus and I have been talking about how we can make this work financially." I continued eating while processing the familiar family dynamic. At 30, I was still viewed as the underachieving younger brother who lived alone in a modest craftsman house in Silver Lake, working as a freelance consultant on projects they didn't understand. The family disappointment who needed gentle guidance toward more responsible choices. "The thing is," Mom continued, pulling out a business card with practiced flourish, "I've been consulting with Rebecca Morrison. She's one of the top agents at Premier Properties, and she thinks your little house could sell for quite a lot in today's market." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. "Pie house. Silver Lake properties are incredibly hot right now," Mom explained with professional enthusiasm. "Especially charming 1920s craftsmen with original details. Rebecca estimates you could get $450, maybe $500,000 if we price it strategically." Jennifer clasped her hands together dramatically. "Danny, it would be perfect. The venue deposit alone is $60,000, and with the catering, flowers and Marcus's dream band, we're looking at $200,000 total." $200,000? I kept my voice neutral, though internally I was calculating that Jennifer's wedding budget exceeded many people's annual salaries. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime celebration," Dad added supportively. "And frankly, son, that house is too much responsibility for someone your age. Property taxes, maintenance, utilities. Wouldn't you be happier in a nice apartment without all those burdens?" Mom nodded sagely. "Plus, the proceeds would give you a fresh start. Maybe enough left over for community college, or vocational training in something more stable than freelance consulting." I set down my fork and studied the three expectant faces around the table. The intervention had been carefully planned, financial pressure disguised as loving concern, with my supposed housing burden positioned as the convenient solution to Jennifer's expensive dreams. "When were you thinking of listing it?" I asked. "Actually," Mom's smile widened triumphantly, "Rebecca is walking through the property right now. I gave her your spare key yesterday so she could do a preliminary assessment. She thinks we can have it on the market by Wednesday if you sign the paperwork tonight." The room fell silent except for the ticking of Dad's antique clock and the distant sound of my front door opening 15 miles away. Through the dining room window, I could see Jennifer's Mercedes in the driveway, the engagement gift from Marcus's parents that had sparked this entire escalation in wedding expectations. My phone buzzed discreetly. A text from my property management company. "Unauthorized access detected at 1247 Baxter Street. Security system activated. Police notification in progress unless you confirm authorized entry." I looked at Mom's triumphant expression, then at Jennifer's hopeful face, then at Dad's approving nod. "Well," I said slowly, reaching for my briefcase beside the dining room buffet, "since we're discussing property sales, there are a few things you should probably know about my real estate situation." I placed a thick folder on the table between the roast chicken and Mom's famous dinner rolls. "This might change the conversation somewhat." "What's that folder, sweetheart?" Mom asked, her tone shifting slightly as she noticed the official-looking documents protruding from the leather portfolio. Her real estate experience had taught her to recognize legal paperwork, and something about the thickness of the file was clearly making her nervous. "Just some property documents," I replied casually, opening the folder to reveal the first page. A property deed for 1247 Baxter Street, Silver Lake, showing clear title ownership in my name. No mortgage, no liens, no encumbrances. Jennifer leaned forward eagerly. "See? This will make the sale so much easier. No complicated mortgage transfers or bank approvals." "Actually," I interrupted gently, turning to the next page, "that's not the property I wanted to discuss first." The second document showed ownership of a 4-unit apartment building in Los Feliz, purchased 18 months ago for $1.2 million, currently generating $8,400 monthly rental income. Dad's wine glass paused halfway to his lips. "What is this?" "Investment property," I said, flipping to the third page. "This one's a duplex in Echo Park. Bought it last year for cash, $650,000. Rent covers the property taxes and maintenance, with about $3,000 monthly profit." Mom's confident expression began to waver as I continued turning pages. Document after document revealed a portfolio she'd never suspected. A small office building in Culver City, 2 rental houses in Highland Park, a mixed-use property in Santa Monica. "Daniel," Mom's voice carried a note of confusion now, "how exactly are you affording these properties on consulting income?" I smiled and flipped to the financial summary page. "The consulting work is actually secondary income. My primary business is Chen Holdings, real estate acquisition and development." Jennifer's mouth fell open slightly. "Chen Holdings. Started it 6 years ago with money from selling a software patent. The initial investment was $800,000, which I used to buy my first rental property. The cash flow from that funded the second purchase, which funded the third, and so on." I turned to the portfolio overview showing a neat table of properties, purchase prices, current values and monthly income streams. Currently, Chen Holdings owns 17 properties across Los Angeles County, with a combined value of approximately $12 million and monthly rental income of $42,000. The dining room fell completely silent. Dad set down his wine glass with trembling fingers. Mom stared at the documents as if they might be elaborate forgeries. But you live in that little house," Jennifer stammered. "You drive a Honda Civic. You buy your clothes at Target." "I live below my means intentionally," I explained patiently. "Real estate investment requires capital preservation and strategic reinvestment. Lifestyle inflation is the enemy of wealth building." Mom finally found her voice. "Daniel, if this is true, why didn't you ever tell us?" "You never asked about my business," I replied honestly. "Every family dinner for 6 years, the conversation has focused on Jennifer's achievements, your real estate sales, Dad's golf scores. My work was dismissed as computer stuff and freelance consulting." I flipped to the final section of the portfolio, development projects currently in progress. This year, Chen Holdings is breaking ground on 2 mixed-use developments. One in Silver Lake, one in Venice. Combined project value is approximately $30 million. Jennifer's engagement ring suddenly looked less impressive against the backdrop of her brother's property empire. "The Silver Lake project," I continued, "is particularly interesting because it's located 3 blocks from my current residence. Property values in that neighborhood have increased 40% since I bought my first rental there." Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. "Son, this is incredible. But why do you still live so modestly if you're worth $12.7 million on paper?" I finished. "Because real estate wealth is different from liquid wealth. The properties generate income, but they also require maintenance, management, and strategic reinvestment." My phone rang. "Property management company calling about the unauthorized access at my house." "Excuse me," I said, accepting the call. "This is Daniel." "Yes, I'm aware someone's in the house. Actually, that's not authorized access. Please proceed with standard security protocols and contact the police. Thank you." I ended the call and looked at Mom's increasingly pale face. That was about Rebecca Morrison walking through my house without permission. Breaking and entering is a felony, even for real estate agents. Mom's business card from Premier Properties suddenly looked much less impressive. Perhaps, I suggested mildly, we should discuss why you gave someone else the keys to my $12 million property portfolio. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds before Mom finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel, I had no idea. Rebecca said it was standard practice for family property assessments. I thought I was helping you with a financial burden. By selling my house without my knowledge or consent? We thought you were struggling. Jennifer interjected, her defensive tone carrying a note of panic. You never talk about money, you live so simply, we assumed. You assumed wrong. I closed the property portfolio and pulled out my phone. And now Rebecca Morrison is going to face some interesting legal consequences for unauthorized property access. I dialed my attorney's number while the family watched in growing horror. David, it's Daniel Chen. Yes, the situation we discussed. Someone's currently conducting an illegal property assessment at Baxter Street. I need immediate legal action against the agent and whoever authorized the entry. Mom's face had gone completely white. 32 years of real estate experience had taught her exactly what immediate legal action meant for an agent caught conducting unauthorized property inspections. Criminal trespass, breaking and entering, attempted fraud if she tries to list it. I continued into the phone. Plus civil action against her brokerage. Yes, I'll hold. Daniel, please. Dad's voice carried genuine desperation now. Surely we can resolve this within the family. This stopped being a family matter when Mom committed a felony, I replied calmly, still holding the phone. David? Excellent. Yes, proceed with all charges. I'll meet you at the property in an hour to document the unauthorized access. I ended the call and looked at 3 devastated faces around the dinner table. Rebecca Morrison's real estate license will be suspended by tomorrow morning. Premier Properties will face regulatory investigation for inadequate supervision of their agents. And Mom. I turned to face Patricia Chen directly. Your involvement in facilitating unauthorized property access makes you an accessory to the crimes. David estimates you'll lose your real estate license permanently and face potential criminal charges. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. Danny, this is all my fault. The wedding expenses, the pressure on Mom. No, I interrupted firmly. This is the consequence of assuming you could sell my property to fund your lifestyle choices. The wedding budget is your responsibility, not mine. My phone buzzed with a text from my property manager. Police have arrived at Baxter Street. Unauthorized individual in custody. Please confirm you want to press full charges. I typed back, press all charges. No exceptions. Mom finally found her voice. Daniel, I'm your mother. Surely you wouldn't destroy my career over a misunderstanding. You attempted to steal and sell property worth approximately $4 million. I stood up, gathering my portfolio. If that's your definition of a misunderstanding, you definitely shouldn't be licensed to handle other people's real estate transactions. Jennifer sobbed quietly into her napkin. Dad stared at his wine glass like it might contain answers. And Rebecca Morrison was about to discover that breaking into a multimillionaire's house carried consequences that extended far beyond a simple trespassing charge. Dinner was lovely, I said politely. Thank you for hosting. I left them sitting in stunned silence around the table where they'd planned to sell my house an hour earlier. Rebecca Morrison's real estate license was revoked within 48 hours. The breaking and entering charges resulted in 6 months probation and a permanent criminal record that ended her property sales career. Premier Properties settled out of court to avoid regulatory sanctions, though their reputation in luxury markets never recovered. Mom's real estate license was suspended pending investigation, then permanently revoked when the state board discovered she'd provided false authorization for the property access. 32 years of building professional credibility disappeared in a single afternoon. Her attempts to find work at other brokerages were unsuccessful once the industry learned about the criminal case. Jennifer's dream wedding became a backyard ceremony at Dad's house with 50 guests instead of 300. The designer dress was returned, the expensive band canceled, and the Beverly Hills venue deposit forfeited. Marcus's parents quietly suggested a longer engagement period to reassess priorities and financial planning. The relationship didn't survive the reassessment period. I kept all 17 properties in my portfolio. Chen Holdings completed both development projects on schedule, generating an additional $4 million in equity. The Silver Lake project included affordable housing units that improved the neighborhood without displacing existing residents. Mom found work as a part-time administrative assistant for a small property management company. They didn't know about her criminal record. Dad continued hosting Sunday dinners, though attendance dropped significantly after Mom's arrest made the local real estate industry publications. Jennifer moved to Portland, where she started over as a marketing coordinator for a nonprofit organization. She seems happier with simpler expectations. My house in Silver Lake remains my primary residence, now worth approximately $650,000 in the current market. The original craftsman details are perfectly preserved. I installed a new security system with facial recognition technology. The unauthorized property access issues stopped permanently. Sunday family dinners became optional. Real estate investment remained extremely profitable.